Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Kabbalah for Heretics with me, your host, Yakov Leib, HaKohain. Good to see you all if you're listening. Currently on Monday through Thursday, we're going through the Zohar, as you all know if you've been a regular listener, for almost 25 years, every single weekday morning for almost 25 years. Here, volume by volume, section by section, page by page, and word by word. Doing that, we've finished volumes 1, 2, and 3, and we have for the past couple of years been studying volume 4 and are almost finished with volume 4. When we finish it, of course, we will get into volume 5 and take the same length of time, 2-3 years usually it seems to take, to complete going through a volume. Let's get back to where we left off yesterday morning. It's speaking of sin and redemption and sacrifice and the Messiah. And it's speaking of the Messiah not from a Christian point of view, because the oral Torah, the Zohar, in its oral form, precedes Christianity. But it is clearly speaking of the Christ event that the Gentiles adopted as their religion of Christianity. And you can see how there are so many references to this, not to the man Jesus specifically. This is where the Christians, I think, go wrong. They take such predictions as we've been seeing here as being of Jesus the man. It is not of Jesus the man. It is of the Messiah, which predictions Jesus the man set about to fulfill consciously. When Rebbe Hezekiah was studying with Rebbe Yitzchak, they once rose at midnight, and we talked about midnight yesterday, to study the Torah. Rebbe Yitzchak discoursed on the verse, "Behold, bless ye Yahweh, all ye servants of Yahweh, which by night stand in the house of Yahweh," from the Psalms. Well, that seems to be pretty straightforward, doesn't it? But the Zohar is going to break open the hidden meanings of that seemingly obvious scripture. This verse, he said, is a tribute to all true believers. I'm repeating this morning, because it's such an important section. It is defining a true believer. Now, I'd like you to note the use of the word believer. That's a pretty inclusive word. It doesn't refer to a true religionist. Notice that. Rabbi Hezekiah was studying with the Rabbi, discoursed on the verse, "Behold, bless ye the Lord, all ye servants of the Lord, which by night stand in the house of the Lord." This verse, he said, is a tribute to all true believers. I hope you're getting that distinction and the inner meaning of that. It does not say all true religionists. And who are the true believers? This is why this passage is so critically important. And who are the true believers? Notice how it's going to define them in a totally different way than the religionists and the rabbis define it. Who are the true believers? Those who study the Torah and know how to unify the holy name in the fitting manner. Do you hear that? Who are true believers? it then answers. It doesn't say true believers are the people who sit down and do everything they're supposed to do by rote. It doesn't say that. It says who study the Torah, not who practice it, but who study it. And when the Zohar says study the Torah, the Zohar means an entirely different way of studying the Torah than the rabbis do. It makes it very clear about that earlier in the Zohar. When the Zohar says very clearly, woe to those who only see the literal meaning of the Torah, for the Torah has many secrets. Excuse me. And those who only study the literal meaning will have no share in the world to come. Excuse me. So that's what it means, who study the Torah, by which it means the oral Torah, by which it means the secrets of the oral Torah, the inner depth of God. Not just the outer superficial surfaces of God, but the inner depths of God. That's what studying the Torah means in the Zohar. Who are the true believers? Those who study the Torah and then listen, and know how to unify the holy name in the fitting manner. The reunification of God, the restoring of God to its former unity, that is the highest purpose. That is the highest definition of the true believer. Not somebody who goes to synagogue regularly, not somebody who keeps kosher regularly, not someone who observes all the festivals and holidays regularly, but the one who works to restore the unity of God's name in the fitting manner. There is a way to do it. And that way to do it is virtually, through vision and insight. Remember, the Zohar says in volume 1, God is unknown. How can you then say he is known at the gates? Indeed, God is unknowable, it says. But to the extent that one can imagine God at the gates, that is the extent of how God is really known. It is this inner virtual work actively in the imagination. And imagination here is not a bad word. It doesn't mean, oh, that's just your imagination. It means using this holy facility, this sacred facility of imagining, to connect with God. And that is the true way of restoring the unity of the name. And who are the true believers? Now this is the Zohar about to define it. Those who study the Torah in the way the Zohar defines studying the Torah, and know how to unify the holy name in the fitting manner. When a man rises at midnight to study the Torah, and the north wind awakens, then a certain hind cattle arises and praises the Holy One, blessed be he. And with her arise thousands and myriads of angels who all commence to praise the Holy King. Listen to this. When he arises, what he does is he inwardly visualizes this hind arising with him. He sees it in the mirror that shines. He observes it in the heart mind. He creates it happening, and by creating it happening in the heart mind, it actually happens. And with her arise thousands and myriads of angels who all commence to praise the Holy King. This is all initiated by the righteous one, by the tzaddik waking up at midnight. He doesn't wake up to see it. He wakes up to make it happen. And it does happen. And whatever can happen in the mind's eye happens in fact. But they all fall into silence in order to listen to him and those who study the Torah. And they proclaim, "Behold, bless ye the Lord, all ye servants of the Lord," as much as to say, you, the studiers, you bless the Lord, you praise the Holy King, you crown the King. Listen to that. Man is given the power to restore God to its unity. Man is given the power to heal God and thereby heal the world and himself. Man is given that power. The angels all proclaim it. Here, right here. I'm not making it up. It's right here in the Zohar. And that hind adorns herself with that man and stands before the king and says, "See, the son with whom I am come before thee, with whom I approach thee." Rabbeinu Shalom, amen v'amen. Mashiach. Being presented to the king by the holy cow, the hind. "Behold, bless ye the Lord, all ye servants of the Lord," as much as to say, you, mankind, bless the Lord. You praise the Holy King. You crown the King. And that hind adorns herself with that man and stands before the king and says, "See the Son, S-O-N, with whom I am come before thee, with whom I approach thee." The feminine presents Mashiach to the king. Well, that's exactly what's described in the New Testament. Now listen, again, this does not mean to say that Yeshua bar Miriam was God. It only is talking about what the Messianic event will be like. It is not predicting Yeshua bar Miriam personally. It is predicting an event which the man, Yeshua bar Miriam, set about to fulfill. The Zohar goes on, their blessing is a real blessing, as it says, "Lift up your hands into holiness." What is holiness? You'll notice very, very deeply religious people, particularly of a very inward spiritual nature, will frequently lift up their hands. It says, "Lift up your hands into holiness." Now, I'm not saying that they're doing it to fulfill this particular statement. They're doing it because it is an archetypal gesture. It is a submission to holiness and an appeal to holiness. Their blessing is a real blessing, as it says, "Lift up your hands into holiness." What is this holiness? Listen again. Another powerful definition. That holiness is the supernal place from which issues a source of the deep stream. When a man has come so far, they proclaim over him, quote, "The Lord bless thee from Zion," unquote, from the place in which the community of Israel is blessed. From there, he will furnish thee with blessings. First of all, notice it says the community of Israel. It does not say the children of Israel. It is not referring only to the Jews. It is referring to all those Jews and Gentiles who have become members of the house of Israel, either by birth or by adoption. And from there, he, capitalized he, will furnish thee with blessings. Also, quote, thou shalt see the good of Jerusalem, unquote, to wit, the blessings that reach it from the king through the holy grade of the righteous one. That is to say, Tiferet, the sixth Sephirah, that is the grade, the Sephirah, that is being referred to. And it is from that that the holiness emerges. That is the Christos. Sephirah Tiferet is the Christos, the final reunification of the disunified Godhead by the Messiah, by the Son of God. Tiferet is the Son, Keter is the Father. You see it in the very description of the 10 Sephiros. A direct line connecting Keter above, connecting Keter above with Tiferet below. Keter being called Atika Kadisha, the ancient holy one, and Tiferet being called the Holy One, the Son. These are all definitions and predictions and explanations of the mystical Messiah that will emerge. And, in fact, we see that, to a very large extent, the man, Yeshua HaNatzri, fulfilled these predictions. That is not because they were predictions of him, but because they were predictions of the events that would be initiated and inaugurated by the man who was to be the Messiah. And Yeshua bar Miriam, the man, the sage, the great sage, offered himself as such a sacrifice. For the reasons here, not for the Christian reasons. The Christian reasoning is that Jesus offered himself as a sacrifice to God to repair our sins, the sins of mankind. That is not what the Zohar is saying about the Mashiach. The Mashiach, the sacrificial Mashiach, will indeed offer himself, but as a sacrifice to the angry, hostile, negative God, so that the conflict within the mind of God, expressed by the anger of God toward man, will be calmed, so that God will be reunited with itself. The Mashiach dies upon the cross, not in order to redeem man, but in order to reunify the disunified God. That's what it's saying. Look yourselves. Look up the Zohar. Read it. I'm only reading to you what it says in the Zohar. Volume 3, 13a to 13b. We'll stop here for this morning. We'll continue with our programming tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning's broadcast is going to be on Neo-Sabbateanism itself and the details of what I was just discussing. In the meantime, everyone have a good day, and you can listen to this program, a transcription of this program, broadcast on Facebook. So not only have you been part of the listening audience this morning, but you can listen to it again in a recorded transcription later today, if you wish. In the meantime, God bless you all. Have a wonderful day. I will see you tomorrow morning when we continue our broadcast programs on Kabbalah for the heretics. Shalom.